The phone buzzed on the counter, showing Linda's name, my wife's name, but it wasn't my phone, it was my teenage son's. And what I read next destroyed our family forever. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through message after message. The room seemed to close in around me, the kitchen light suddenly too harsh, too revealing. Each word on that screen felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. How could they? How could she? And my son, my own flesh and blood, how could he? I still remember exactly how the cold granite counter felt against my palms as I steadied myself. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the steady drip of the faucet I'd been meaning to fix, and the sound of the shower running upstairs, where Daniel, completely unaware that his world was about to implode, was washing away a day that, for me, would never end. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. That sickening wave of realization, of betrayal, crashed over me again and again. The messages blurred as tears filled my eyes, but I couldn't stop reading. Couldn't stop torturing myself with every word, every secret they'd shared behind my back. I'm just an ordinary guy. A father who tried his best after losing his wife. A man who thought he'd found love again, who believed he was rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. I never imagined I'd discover something so devastating, so wrong in my own home. The shower stopped. Footsteps moved across the ceiling above me. I had minutes, maybe seconds, before Daniel would come downstairs looking for his phone. Before I'd have to face my son and somehow find words for the unspeakable things I'd just discovered, I placed the phone back exactly where it had been. My chest felt hollow, my breathing shallow. Everything I thought I knew about my family, this fragile, precious thing I'd fought so hard to piece back together, was a lie. And the worst part? I had no idea what to do next. I was just an average guy trying to hold my life together. 3 years ago, my world collapsed when my wife died suddenly from an aneurysm. One minute we were planning a weekend getaway, the next I was planning a funeral. Daniel was 14 then, that terrible age when you need your mother most but would never admit it. Those first months felt impossible. I'd wake up reaching for her, only to find cold sheets. Daniel would stare at her empty chair during dinner, pushing food around his plate. We existed in parallel, each drowning in our own grief while trying to throw the other a lifeline. "Dad," he asked one night, 6 months after we lost her, "do you think it'll ever feel normal again?" I didn't have an answer. Not a good one, anyway. "I don't know, buddy, but we'll figure it out together." That became our mantra. Together. Even when Daniel slammed doors or I worked late to avoid the emptiness of our home. Even when neither of us remembered to buy groceries or the laundry piled up for weeks. We were broken, but we were broken together. By the time Daniel turned 16, we'd found a rhythm. Not happiness exactly, but a kind of peace. He had his friends and soccer team. I had my work and the weekend fishing trips that gave me space to breathe. We'd learned to live with the hole in our lives, not filling it, just building around it. Then I met Linda. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning strike or love at first sight. Just a parent-teacher conference where she wasn't even Daniel's teacher, but was filling in for Mr. Brennan who'd called in sick. She had kind eyes and a quiet laugh. She asked thoughtful questions about Daniel that went beyond academics. I found myself lingering after we'd covered everything necessary. "Would you like to grab coffee sometime?" The words surprised me as much as they seemed to surprise her. That coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into movie nights and weekend hikes. For the first time in years, I felt something other than grief or numbness. I felt alive. Telling Daniel was terrifying. I rehearsed the conversation dozens of times, preparing for anger or accusations of betrayal. Instead, he shrugged. "It's cool, Dad. You deserve to be happy." Relief washed over me. Maybe we were healing after all. Linda moved in 6 months later. Our house, which had felt like a museum of memories, suddenly filled with new sounds and smells. Her books mixed with ours on the shelves. Her gardening tools appeared in the garage. Her favorite mugs joined our mismatched collection. The transition wasn't smooth. Daniel forgot to knock before entering the bathroom. Linda struggled to find her place in our established routines. I caught myself feeling guilty for laughing too loudly or enjoying her company too much, as if happiness were a betrayal of what we'd lost. "It's okay to move forward," Linda whispered one night, somehow reading my thoughts. She would want that for you, for both of you. Maybe she was right. Slowly, our awkward trio began to feel like family. Linda attended Daniel's soccer games, cheering louder than anyone. She helped him with his English essays, her background as a literature teacher proving invaluable. I watched them bonding over books and movies I had no interest in, grateful that Daniel had someone who understood that part of him. When I proposed, it felt right. Not perfect. Nothing would ever be perfect again, but right. Daniel stood beside me at our small ceremony, passing the rings with a smile that reached his eyes for the first time in years. "We made it, buddy," I whispered as we watched Linda chat with guests at the reception. "A new chapter." He nodded, but something flickered across his face, something I couldn't quite identify. "Yeah. New." I should have paid more attention to that moment, to the way he looked at her when he thought no one was watching, to the quiet conversations that stopped when I entered a room, to the growing distance that I attributed to teenage independence rather than something deeper, darker. But I was too caught up in my second chance at happiness, too relieved that my son seemed to accept my new wife, too blind to see what was happening right under my roof. Until that night. Until that phone buzzed on the counter and shattered the illusion I'd been living in. Until I discovered exactly what new meant to my son and my wife. The changes were subtle at first. Daniel stopped joining us for movie nights, claiming homework or plans with friends. When he was home, his bedroom door stayed firmly closed, the soft glow of his phone visible under the gap at all hours. "Is everything okay with him?" I asked Linda one night as we washed dishes together. "He barely spoke at dinner," she shrugged, passing me a plate to dry. "He's 17. Isn't that what teenagers do? Pull away?" It made sense. I remembered my own teenage years, the desperate need for privacy, the feeling that parents couldn't possibly understand. Still, something felt different, wrong. "Maybe I should talk to him," I suggested. Linda touched my arm, her fingers cool and damp from the dishwater. "Give him space. Pushing will only make him retreat more." I trusted her judgment. After all, she worked with teenagers every day as a teacher. She understood them in ways I never could. But the distance grew. Daniel's grades began to slip. He quit the soccer team that had been his passion since elementary school. Dark circles appeared under his eyes, his responses to my questions becoming increasingly monosyllabic. "Did something happen at school?" I pressed one morning, catching him before he could escape to the bus stop. "Everything's fine," he muttered, eyes fixed on his phone. "Just tired." Linda started checking on him more often. I'd find her knocking softly on his door, offering help with homework, or bringing him snacks. Sometimes they'd talk for hours, their voices too low to make out the words. I was grateful for her efforts, relieved that at least one of us could reach him. "He opened up a bit," she'd tell me afterward. "Just normal teenage stuff. Pressure at school. Growing troubles." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Then came the late nights. Linda marked papers until 2 in the morning. Daniel's insomnia keeps him wandering the house until dawn. Sometimes I'd wake to find them both in the kitchen, sharing tea and whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when I appeared. "Couldn't sleep," they'd say in near unison, their eyes meeting briefly before darting away. The excuses made sense individually. Together, they formed a pattern I wasn't ready to see. One night, I woke to find Linda's side of the bed empty. The digital clock read 3:17 a.m. Bathroom, I thought. But minutes passed, and she didn't return. Curious rather than concerned, I padded down the hallway in my bare feet. I found them on the back porch, silhouettes against the moonlight. They weren't touching, just sitting side by side on the steps, talking intently. As I watched through the window, Daniel said something that made Linda laugh. A free, unguarded sound I rarely heard anymore. My stomach tightened. Just a stepmother bonding with her stepson, I told myself. Just two insomniacs passing the night. Just my mind playing tricks, searching for problems where none existed. I returned to bed before they saw me, lying awake until Linda slipped back under the covers an hour later. "Where were you?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "Couldn't sleep," she murmured. "Went downstairs for some tea." A truth, but not the whole truth. The first of many partial truths that would eventually destroy us. As weeks passed, I caught more moments. Linda's hand lingering on Daniel's shoulder. Shared glances across the dinner table, text notifications that made them both jump. Daniel volunteered to help Linda in the garden, though he'd always hated gardening. Linda defended him when I expressed concern about his grades. "You need to cut him some slack," she'd insist. "He's dealing with a lot." "Like what?" I'd challenge myself. "What exactly is he dealing with that I don't know about?" She'd pull back then, retreat behind vague references to teenage confidentiality and the importance of trust. And I'd feel like the outsider in my own family, the only one not privy to the secret language they'd developed. I started checking their phones when they left them unattended, a behavior I'd have found despicable months earlier. But they were careful, too careful. Nothing suspicious in their text histories, no unusual apps or hidden folders, just the growing certainty that something wasn't right. The night everything changed was unremarkable. A Thursday in April. Linda had book club, the one evening each week she spent away from home. Daniel and I ordered pizza, an attempt at reclaiming our old father-son bond. "How are things really?" I asked as we ate. "You seem distant lately," he shrugged, eyes on his plate. "I'm fine. Is it school, friends? Is it Linda? Does having her here still feel strange?" His eyes flashed up at her name, something like guilt crossing his face before he masked it. "Linda's great," he said too quickly. "She's been really helpful." The way he said, helpful, made my skin crawl. Before I could press further, his phone buzzed on the counter. He lunged for it, but not before I caught Linda's name on the notification. "Book club must be boring," I joked, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Daniel pocketed the phone without responding, then excused himself to shower. I sat alone at the kitchen table, pizza growing cold as the water pipes groaned to life overhead. His phone had been right there, beckoning me with answers to questions I wasn't sure I wanted to ask. Minutes passed. The shower continued running. His phone buzzed again on the counter where he'd left it in his haste, a mistake he rarely made these days. "Just check the time," I told myself. "Just make sure it's not an emergency." But as I lifted the phone, my thumb instinctively pressed the home button, and there it was. A message preview from Linda. "Miss you already. Can't stop thinking about last night when we..." The rest was cut off, hidden unless I opened the full message. The ground seemed to shift beneath me. "Innocent explanation," I pleaded with myself. There must be an innocent explanation. With trembling fingers, I swiped open the phone. No passcode, no protection. Daniel had nothing to hide, or thought he had nothing to hide. And there they were. Hundreds of messages stretching back months, words that no stepmother should say to her stepson. Confessions, longings, plans, memories of moments I'd been blind to. I didn't hear the shower stop, didn't register the footsteps on the stairs. All I could see were the words burning into my retinas, changing everything I thought I knew about my family. "Dad?" Daniel's voice cut through my haze. He stood in the doorway, hair dripping onto his shoulders, eyes wide with horror as he took in the phone in my hand and the expression on my face. "What are you doing?" I looked up at my son, this stranger wearing my son's face, and felt something break inside me, something that could never be fixed. "What am I doing?" My voice didn't sound like my own. "What the hell are you doing, Daniel? What the hell have you done? Give me my phone." Daniel's voice shook, panic replacing the initial shock. I stood, clutching the device like it was evidence in a crime. In many ways it was. "Not until you explain this." I turned the screen toward him, displaying the messages that had destroyed my world. "Not until you tell me what's going on between you and Linda." His face was drained of color. For a moment, he looked like the little boy who'd come to me with scraped knees and broken toys. Vulnerable, frightened. Then his expression hardened. A man emerging from the remnants of that child. "It's not what you think." The oldest lie in the world. My laugh sounded hollow, broken. "Then what is it, Daniel?" "Because what I think is that my wife and my son are having an affair under my roof. Please," my voice cracked, "tell me I'm wrong." He looked away, jaw working. "We didn't mean for it to happen." 5 words, 5 simple words that confirmed every nightmare. The room spun around me, bile rising in my throat. "How long?" I managed. He shrugged, the gesture so casual it ignited my rage. "A few months, since after Christmas." Christmas. When we decorated the tree together, hung stockings, pretended to be a normal family. While I'd been planning Linda's gift, she'd been planning... what? Secret rendezvous with my teenage son? She was there for me, Daniel continued, the words rushing out now. She understood things about me, about Mom, about grief, things you never tried to understand. We would talk at night when you were working late or already asleep. Really talk. Not the surface stuff you always want to discuss. Each word was a knife. I'd failed him as a father, and now he was punishing me in the most devastating way possible. She's your stepmother, Daniel. She's my wife. She's 34 years old, and you're 17. Do you understand how wrong this is? How damaged you both must be to think this is okay? His eyes flashed. Don't talk about her like that. She loves me. She's using you. The phone clattered to the counter as I slammed my palm down. She's an adult taking advantage of a grieving, vulnerable teenager. That's not love, that's abuse. You don't know anything about it, he spat. You don't know her like I do. You don't know me anymore either. I know enough, I said, suddenly exhausted. I know this ends tonight. As if summoned by our raised voices, the front door opened. Linda called out, I'm home early. Book club was? She froze in the kitchen doorway, taking in the scene. Daniel in his towel, my ravaged expression, the phone between us on the counter. Understanding dawned in her eyes. James, she started, using my name like a prayer. I can't explain. Can you? I picked up the phone, scrolled to a message at random. I dream about your hands on me, about finishing what we started in the car. Please, Linda, explain how my wife is sending messages like this to my 17-year-old son. She flinched but didn't deny it. Instead, she moved toward Daniel, as if to protect him from me. The gesture nearly broke me. It just happened, she whispered. We never meant to hurt you. Yet here we are. I gestured around our kitchen, this space that had once been the heart of our fractured family. All of us are hurting. Daniel moved to stand beside her, their unified front the final betrayal. We care about each other, he said. That's not wrong. Care about, I couldn't even finish the sentence. He's a child, Linda. My child. What were you thinking? Her eyes filled with tears. I wasn't thinking. I was feeling understood for the first time in years. He saw me, James, not as your second wife or Daniel's stepmother, but as me. Do you have any idea how rare that is? So you seduced him? My teenage son who's still grieving his mother? I didn't seduce anyone, she shot back, some of her composure returning. It was mutual. We connected. Connected, I repeated numbly. While I was what? An obstacle? A joke? Did you laugh about me during your late-night talks and car rides? Daniel stepped forward. It wasn't like that, Dad. We never meant. Stop saying that. My shout echoed off the kitchen tiles. Stop saying you never meant for this to happen. You made choices. Both of you. Hundreds of choices that led here. You chose to betray me. To lie to my face day after day. Linda reached for my arm. I jerked away as if I was burned. James, please. We can work through this. See a counselor. Find a way forward. The audacity of her suggestion left me speechless. Did she truly believe there was any coming back from this? Any reality where I could look at either of them without seeing their betrayal? There is no we anymore, I said finally. Pack your things. Tonight, I want you out of this house. Her face crumpled. Where am I supposed to go? That stopped being my concern the moment you decided to pursue my son. I turned to Daniel, heart breaking all over again at the defiance in his eyes. And you have a choice to make right now. Stay here and we'll figure out how to move forward, or go with her and accept what that means for our relationship. You can't make him choose, Linda protested. You already forced that choice the moment you crossed this line. Daniel looked between us, torn between the father who'd raised him and the woman who'd by that exploited his vulnerability. The moment stretched, taut with possibility and loss. I can't just abandon her, he finally said, voice small. My last hope shattered. Then you've made your choice. They stood frozen as I moved past them, climbed the stairs to what had been our bedroom. I threw Linda's clothes into suitcases, her toiletries into bags, working mechanically, emptying drawers and closets of any trace of her. By the time I dragged everything downstairs, Daniel had dressed and was whispering urgently with Linda in the living room. They fell silent as I dropped the bags at their feet. Dad, Daniel tried again. Please listen. I'm done listening to lies. My voice was steady now, emotions locked behind a wall of numbness. Linda, you have 30 minutes to get whatever else you need and leave. Daniel, If you go with her, understand what that means. You're choosing her over your family, over everything we've built together. You're the one making me choose, he shouted, finally breaking. Why can't you just try to understand? Understand? I laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. What exactly should I understand? That my wife and son have been carrying on behind my back? That every moment I thought we were healing, you were both lying to my face? That's not something I can understand, Daniel. It's something I have to survive. Linda gathered her bags, moving with the quiet efficiency that had once attracted me to her. We'll go to my sister's, she said. Just until we figure things out. There's nothing to figure out, I replied. It's over. All of it. Daniel disappeared upstairs, returning minutes later with a hastily packed backpack. The sight of it, this physical evidence of his choice, hit me harder than any of their words. This isn't forever, Dad, he said, standing at the door. I just need time. Take all the time you need. I couldn't look at him anymore. Just don't expect me to be waiting when you realize what a mistake this is. The door closed behind them with a soft click that seemed to echo through the suddenly empty house. I stood in the hallway, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. Family photos on the walls, Daniel's soccer trophies on the shelf, Linda's gardening magazines on the side table. Everything looked the same. Nothing would ever be the same again. I sank to the floor, back against the wall, and finally let the tears come. The days after they left passed in a fog. I called in sick to work, ignored the concerned messages from friends, and drifted through rooms that echoed with absence. I alternated between rage and despair, between wanting to hunt them down and never wanting to see either of them again. I packed away Linda's remaining belongings, throwing her wedding photo against the wall and watching the glass shatter with grim satisfaction. I sat in Daniel's room, breathing in the lingering scent of his cologne, wondering where exactly I had lost him. Had it been when his mother died, when I brought Linda home? Or had the seeds been planted long before, in some parental failing I couldn't even identify? After a week, I changed the locks. It felt both petty and necessary. A physical manifestation of the emotional barriers I was building. Linda called daily at first. I let each call go to voicemail, listening to her increasingly desperate pleas. James, we need to talk. Daniel's struggling. Please don't throw away 17 years of fatherhood over this. We can fix this if you'll just listen. Fix this. As if a broken trust was a leaky faucet that needed tightening. Daniel texted rather than called. His messages were brief, guarded. At Aunt Carol's, I'm okay. Hope you are too. Hope you are too. After everything, he still pretended to care. I didn't respond to either of them. What was there to say that wouldn't lead to more pain, more accusations, more lies? 2 weeks after they left, someone knocked on my door. I opened it expecting a delivery, only to find Linda's sister Carol standing on my porch, arms crossed and expression grim. You look terrible, she said as a way of greeting. I hadn't shaved or properly slept in days. My appearance was the least of my concerns. What do you want, Carol? To talk sense into you. She pushed past me into the house, wrinkling her nose at the unwashed dishes and takeout containers. This isn't healthy, James. Neither is my wife seducing my teenage son, but here we are. She flinched but held her ground. I'm not defending what they did. It was wrong on every level, but they're both hurting too. Good, I spat, the word tasting bitter. They should hurt. Carol sighed, sinking onto the couch. Daniel cries himself to sleep. Did you know that? He thinks he's destroyed everything, that you'll never forgive him. A part of me, the father who had held him through nightmares and bandaged his wounds, ached at the image. Another part hardened further. He made his choice. He's 17, James. 17. His brain isn't fully developed. He's grieving his mother, confused about his feelings, and vulnerable to an adult who should have known better. Her words hit uncomfortably close to thoughts I'd been wrestling with myself. In my darkest moments, I blamed Linda entirely. The adult, the teacher, the one who should have maintained boundaries. But I couldn't absolve Daniel completely. Not when he'd looked me in the eye day after day while betraying me. What do you want from me, Carol? Talk to him. Her voice softened. Not to Linda. I agree she crossed an unforgivable line. But Daniel is your son, your only child. Don't lose him over this. He's the one who left. And now he doesn't know how to come back. She stood, moving toward the door. Just think about it. He's at my house, he has school, then works at the grocery store until 7. After that, well, the ball's in your court. After she left, I paced the house for hours, her words echoing in my mind. Part of me wanted to drive straight to Carol's, to grab Daniel and bring him home where he belonged. Another part couldn't stomach the thought of facing him, of hearing details about his relationship with Linda that would haunt me forever. But as night fell, I found myself in my car, driving the familiar route to Carol's neighborhood. I parked across from the grocery store, watching the entrance like some kind of stalker. At 7:15, Daniel emerged, still wearing his green apron, looking thinner and more exhausted than when he'd left. My heart contracted painfully at the sight of him. My son, my child. Despite everything, the love remained, tangled with hurt and anger but undeniably present. I didn't approach him, wasn't ready for that conversation yet, but I followed at a distance as he walked the 6 blocks to Carol's house, making sure he arrived safely before driving home. The next day, I sent my first text. "I'm glad you're safe." His reply came minutes later. "I'm sorry, Dad, for everything." 4 simple words. Not enough to heal the wound between us, but perhaps enough to start the process. "I know," I responded. And somehow I did. 6 months passed. Seasons changed. Papers were filed, lawyers consulted, a marriage dissolved as quickly and clinically as possible. Linda moved across the state for a new teaching position. Our house, too large now, too full of memories, went on the market. Daniel and I began the slow, painful work of rebuilding. First through texts, then careful phone calls, finally awkward dinners at neutral restaurants where we talked about everything except what had happened. "I've been seeing someone," I told him during one such dinner. "A therapist," I clarified when his eyes widened. "It's helping. Maybe you should consider it too." He nodded, pushing pasta around his plate. "I started last month, actually. There's a lot to unpack." That phrase, so adult, so aware, gave me hope that he was finding his way back not just to me, but to himself. Slowly, details emerged. Not the intimate ones I couldn't bear to hear, but the emotional landscape that had made such a catastrophic choice possible. How Linda had first offered comfort during his nightmares, how late-night talks had veered into inappropriate territory, how lines blurred so gradually, neither recognized the boundaries being crossed until it was too late. "I was looking for Mom in her," he admitted during one particularly raw conversation. "And she was looking for, I don't know, youth, power, someone who wouldn't judge her?" I didn't have answers, only questions that kept me awake at night. Had I been so absorbed in my own healing that I'd missed my son's pain? Had I chosen Linda because she reminded me of my late wife, creating an impossible dynamic from the start? What combination of grief, loneliness, and poor judgment had created the perfect storm that tore us apart? The new apartment felt sterile, impersonal, a blank slate for whatever came next. Daniel visited occasionally, still living with Carol, but talking about community college applications, about moving to a dorm, about finding independence that wasn't tied to either parent figure in his life. "Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" he asked one evening as we assembled a bookshelf for his room at Carol's. "Really okay, I mean, not just pretending." I paused, screwdriver in hand, considering his question with the gravity it deserved. "I think we're building something different now, not better or worse, just different, and that has to be okay." He nodded, understanding the limitations of what I could offer. Not the blind trust of before, but something more cautious, more hard-won. "I miss you, Dad," he said simply. "I miss who we were." "I miss that too," I admitted, "but I'm getting to know who we are now. And that person, my son, the adult you're becoming, I want to know him too." It wasn't forgiveness, not completely. Some wounds run too deep for perfect healing. But it was a bridge across the chasm that had opened between us. A fragile structure we were both committed to strengthening, one conversation at a time. The future stretches before us now, uncertain but possible. Daniel talks about becoming a counselor, about using his experience to help others navigate grief and poor choices. I'm dating again, cautiously, a woman with no connection to our past, who knows only the broad strokes of what happened. Sometimes I wake in the night, the old anger burning through me. Other times, I feel only gratitude that my son and I found our way back to each other, however imperfectly. This isn't a story with a tidy ending. No perfect resolution exists for betrayal this deep, this personal. But if you're listening to this, perhaps struggling with your own family fractures, know that healing is possible. Not complete, not painless, but possible. Have you ever had to rebuild something you thought was permanently broken? Comment below with your experience. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys through family crisis and recovery. And if you know someone navigating the aftermath of betrayal, share this video. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our darkest moments is the first step toward light. The question I still ask myself daily: when trust is shattered beyond recognition, how do we find the courage to begin again? The answer, I'm learning, isn't found in forgetting the past, but in facing it honestly and choosing to take that next step forward anyway. What step will you take today? The phone buzzed on the counter, showing Linda's name, my wife's name. But it wasn't my phone, it was my teenage son's. And what I read next destroyed our family forever. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through message after message. The room seemed to close in around me. The kitchen light suddenly too harsh, too revealing. Each word on that screen felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. How could they? How could she? And my son, my own flesh and blood, how could he? I still remember exactly how the cold granite counter felt against my palms as I steadied myself. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the steady drip of the faucet I'd been meaning to fix, and the sound of the shower running upstairs, where Daniel, completely unaware that his world was about to implode, was washing away a day that, for me, would never end. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. That sickening wave of realization, of betrayal, crashed over me again and again. The messages blurred as tears filled my eyes, but I couldn't stop reading. Couldn't stop torturing myself with every word, every secret they'd shared behind my back. I'm just an ordinary guy, a father who tried his best after losing his wife, a man who thought he'd found love again, who believed he was rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy. I never imagined I'd discover something so devastating, so wrong, in my own home. The shower stopped. Footsteps moved across the ceiling above me. I had minutes, maybe seconds, before Daniel would come downstairs looking for his phone. Before I'd have to face my son and somehow find words for the unspeakable things I'd just discovered. I placed the phone back exactly where it had been. My chest felt hollow, my breathing shallow. Everything I thought I knew about my family, this fragile, precious thing I'd fought so hard to piece back together, was a lie. And the worst part? I had no idea what to do next.